Hello and welcome to Plant CEO. Today we're going to be speaking to Hakeem Jimo, the founder of Veggie Victory.
Hi, Anand. Yeah, fantastic. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, perfect. So can you tell me a little bit about your background?
My name is Hakeem Jimo. I'm here in Lagos, Nigeria. That's why you see some tropical plants, probably. I'm the co-founder of Veggie Victory, which is Nigeria's first vegan food company. We started as a restaurant, a vegan restaurant, and then added a meat substitute. And I'm 48 years old and German Nigerian, actually.
Awesome. So how is the vegan movement in Africa right now?
Yeah, quite different, I think, than what you might be used to in UK. Um, I think there are two sides of it. Traditionally, we didn't eat much meat, but that was maybe a few generations before. So right now, um, the meat has taken big part of the meal. It's desired to have it. So the vegan concept is new. It seems to be a bit like imported, but people actually know what it is. So
Yeah.
I, Mhm.
And how do you think that compares to Europe or the US?
Well, the biggest difference I think is why people do go vegan or consider it. And in Africa, like here, I'm in Nigeria, it's health reasons. So there are a lot of health challenges, the typical non-communicable diseases, killer diseases. Um, so that's the main driver here. So not as much as in Europe, where ethical reasons are very important, environmental reasons. Those come much later, those reasons. So here it's clearly health.
Yeah. And what's the main thing about health? Is there something that is missing within the foods that they're eating, like protein,
Yeah.
or
Um, um,
are they lacking anything, or is it the causes of other things and having an impact?
Yeah, so there are different things come into play. Of course, Africa is very diverse. I mean, even you can't compare a country like Nigeria with 200 million people to small countries, even within West Africa or East Africa. So everywhere it's quite different. Then you have this huge um, uh, contrast between rural population and urban population. So on one side, you have people that are very much living the Western life with problems like obesity, and then you have people that are lacking protein, malnutrition. So you have obesity and you have malnutrition. Um, so one has to really think of that first, and then so uh, the plant-based diet can actually, we believe, go help both ways. So obviously, obesity, very similar to Europe, Western world,
Yeah.
and then also help poorer people, which there are still millions, to overcome those deficiencies.
So, what initially made you open your first vegan restaurant and then also create this alternative meat product that you've now created and launched?
Yeah, in the beginning, it was a personal story. So I have been in the beginning, I was a vegetarian for 19 years. And then I switched to the vegan diet lifestyle. That's another 7 years. So altogether, like 26 years. And I was just fed up that there are no restaurants in Lagos, in a 20 million city like Lagos. So I saw in other cities, Europe, vegan, vegetarian restaurants popping up everywhere, even in some neighboring countries here in West Africa. And then there was none in Lagos, and I thought, no, this is too weird, And so let's start it. I was usually eating a lot of I eat Nigerian meals, but you have to prepare it yourself. We can talk about more how African food is or Nigerian food. So I ended up eating at a lot of Indian places, Lebanese places, because that was easy when you move around town, because you can't just stop somewhere and eat the stew from the street, because then there's definitely meat in it.
Right.
So I spent a lot of money on that, and I was telling my wife that spending so much money here on eating out, and we can still not really be sure what it is. So why don't we start our own restaurant? And then we have the vegan burgers and all those things that I was missing anyway, and probably can even veganize the very interesting Nigerian cuisine. So it was a personal decision, and then at the same time, it was not just a hobby, but I thought there is a viable future for vegan businesses. It was very early, 7 years ago. It was 7 years ago, even in Europe, vegan was still not too common, not like nowadays. So, and something was telling me world is interacting. A lot of people from abroad are back in Nigeria, and they bring those experience with. So there should be some market for vegans. I mean, no matter how much Nigerians are saying they are meat eaters. So that's how we started the restaurant. And well, the meat substitute came later because immediately we started, people came to the restaurant, and I always say normal meat eaters. So 9 out of 10 of our customers are normal meat eaters, but they want to reduce meat. So flexitarian, you might want to call them. And then we thought, how can we even reach more people? And the product was the best option because there are not even many products here.
Yeah. And can you tell me how you're working with the local charities in Africa?
Yeah, so so the business grew and grew, and it's about how do you convince people? Because I think the big difference is in Africa, meat is seen as a status symbol, you know, similar like Europe, but a few hundred years ago. So meat is something that you deserve, you know, that you earned it. It shows that you have arrived, and so it immediately tells you it's a psychological thing. You know, it's not so much about nutrition. It's about a status symbol. So in fact, it's even seen that if you offer somebody a meal without meat, it's like almost like an insult, or that you cannot afford meat. You know, so. What we are trying to do is to give people an affordable alternative to meat, so they get even better protein. Because the truth is also a lot of Africans are protein deficient, and that's horrible. You need protein to develop. So even compared to other developing countries, we are really bad in protein. And so where do you get the protein to to have a healthy population? So we wanted to have a plant-based product that helps to overcome this, and then at the same time, it should be cool. People don't want to buy something because they know they are suffering or they know they can't afford the real thing. You know? So that helps with the global vegan movement, that it's becoming sexy, it's becoming fashionable, lifestyle, healthy, and people are realizing it because, like I mentioned, health is a big issue. So we have this diabetes, blood pressure, and then combined with the inefficient medical infrastructure, you can imagine what that means. So people actually need to eat healthier, we believe.
And how does that now connect with the work that you're doing with charities in Nigeria, especially?
So we want to reach people at an early stage. So we started in school outreach in schools, and we see that young people are very receptive to this message. And then we have partnerships like with the SOS Children's Villages. It's originated from Austria, Germany, and it's now an orphanage system around the world. And they have 4 orphanage villages in Nigeria. And so we started the conversation, and they also told us that it's becoming more and more difficult to provide protein for the children because meat is going up in terms of prices, and health-wise, we're not sure. Half of the meat in Nigeria is imported, so we don't know really where it's coming from, or it's the quality is not good. So they were really open in terms of the health message, and then affordability. We need to feed the people. So we have a partnership, and we're introducing to them our meat substitutes and show them other ways, like how to make tofu and mushrooms. It's really about learning a lot of skills.
Yeah. And so you've set up this charity that you're thinking of now, donating some of your food if somebody sponsors you to do that and provide it to this orphanages that you're working with.
Yes, so we started with our Veggie Victory company to give the meat substitute to the schools and as Children's Village, and now we want to scale up. Like I had the idea, and that's when you came and we met, and I thought, might that be an idea to, if we connect a lot of vegan friendly people around the world, and what if you can donate something, and then we provide a meat substitute, an alternative to these children here,
Yeah.
and show them also not just eating for a month or two, but actually, there are other ways to do that. I was the other day at the orphanage, and they live in small families. They have a mother that has taken so they have each houses, and then I saw a little chicken box, and I asked, those were the chickens, and what happened? They died. I said, how did they die? And there was a flu or something. And I said, well, that's really serious. I mean, you're trying, the little resources you have, you're trying to grow an animal for protein, and then it dies. It's completely inefficient. There has to be something better. And also wanted to say that the issue in Africa is definitely not that we're eating too much meat. It's different than Europe. Just the number. I came across in a BBC report in Burundi, so that's in southern Africa. One person eats about 5 kilograms of chicken per year, compared to 120 kilograms of an average American. So it's not really about reducing the meat. Of course, I would like that also, but actually preventing meat consumption. And so what happens if people have access, if they have enough money, and then they are trading it into meat, like you can see in China and in India. The moment they have more money, now they are buying it because it's a status symbol. And we are trying to avoid that for environmental reasons and health reasons, and obviously also animal rights.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Well done. So with the charity, you've set up a fundraising page. So I think we can link to that on the description of this video. So I'll be happy to put that up. Yeah, you're welcome. So the other thing is that I found interesting when we first met is that you were also brought up in a farm in Germany.
Oh yeah.
So can you tell me about that? Were you rearing animals, or was it plants you were growing?
Yeah, it was a crop farm. So in northern Germany. So I was born in northern Germany, and then I was actually on a farm in Lower Saxony. So they grow wheat and potatoes and this kind of stuff. So it was not thank God, it was not a animal farm. But of course, there's a deep tradition to meat, and what happened there was they buy among the neighbors. They buy one pig, and then the butcher comes, and then they're producing it locally. So in a way, compared to factory farming, it's much better. But there was always, if you slaughter one big pig, the freezer, we had, I think, 2 freezers were full, and every day there was meat. I mean, that's the cliche of Germany. And I was in my teens. I said, this is really too much, and let me just go with the potatoes. And then there were some stories coming up in the media, and I remember one of the effects was I don't know if anybody remembers it. The chicken farm of Pohlmann, and they said they sprayed the chicken with nicotine, and I knew nicotine from cigarettes. I tried not to smoke at that age. And now you're spraying the chickens, and this was one of the stories. And then mad cow disease came later, and the fish had a problem in the North Sea, and but I didn't make the connection. Nobody heard of vegetarianism. It was later at the university in Hamburg that I met like-minded people, and then there was the alternative meal. Vegetarian word was still not known. So it's not like nowadays you go through Berlin and everybody is vegan.
Yeah, totally.
But even there, I'm still arguing with people. I said, this Berlin or probably London, it's an island. It's there's still like in Africa, there's still the rural areas, and or in America, I see that. It's if you're in Portland, yeah, great, you have all these fantastic vegan companies, but there's much more than that.
Yeah. So, what do your customers say about your veg meat product? Both good and bad, I guess.
Yeah, so this is really what keeps me going. It's like just yesterday I saw a screenshot of a chat that a woman came, she bought a pack, and then she cooked it for her husband, and he didn't notice it was not meat. And then she wrote back, I need 10 more of these packs because my husband doesn't even realize it was not meat. And this is what we're really proud of, that what we have developed is a meat substitute that really works with the African idea of meat, which is more like chunky. It's not like burgers and hot dogs. It's like you want your skewers. It's like a barbecue thing, or in stews. So that's something we have managed to do. And so there are always this fantastic story that people come to the restaurant and they're arguing with you. No, you're not saying the truth. This is meat. What kind of meat is it? And some really weird stories like somebody was saying, no, I can't eat it. It's like human meat, So, yeah. So I mean, what we really want to do is connect to the common people. So not making it a kind of high-end vegan, but really affordability is that's actually the main thing, that it should be more affordable than meat. That was always my philosophy. How can meat be cheaper than a meat substitute? It doesn't really make sense. Maybe under marketing ideas, but we want to give people really like a common man an alternative, because Africa is a poorer or does not have as much purchase power as a developed region. So we need to find solution here that include people on that path and not just leaving them out because they don't have enough money for a meat substitute.
So is it currently cheaper than meat, your product, according to how much like for like comparison?
Yeah, we are already like 20-30% cheaper than meat. Of course, it depends on what kind of meat you're buying, but we're not like I was always when I'm in Germany and then I see some great meat substitutes, and then they are like double the amount of meat, of course, which is subsidized, but still that cannot be an excuse. So yes, we are cheaper than meat, and also high protein, more protein in, and some other benefits, like it doesn't rely on a cold chain, because there's no cold chain in Africa. Electricity is a problem. So
it's not stored in the freezer or the fridge, and you've created a technique to create your product. If you can describe that a little bit.
Yeah, actually, so we got even a patent on that. That it's basically dehydrated. So But what is interesting is to get the texture, because it's all about the texture. It's not, people are not changing to a plant-based diet, or at least reduce the meat because they want to help animals or help the environment. No, it's because price is a factor, and then taste. It has to taste. If it doesn't taste good, then they will still not eat it. And there are some cheap animal products like the skin. It's really inexpensive, but people would still buy it if the alternative is not tasty.
So are you planning any new products or opening more restaurants in Nigeria? What are your your growth plans, I guess, in the short term?
Yeah, so there are many ways to play it. So first, we're happy that we have done 7 years, and we are pioneers here, and it was not for money-making reasons. So we've still put more money into the business than making out of it. So people are asking us, Nigeria is so huge. There's Abuja, an hour flight, or Port Harcourt, and to open restaurants there. But running a brick and mortar place is so expensive here. So that's why we went into a retail product. And we're definitely looking at other retail products, like something from cashews. And there's really a lot of, food comes from here. There's so many fantastic things. So we want to broaden our product range so that we have, there's something for everybody, even something that is more locally sourced, even cheaper, and so different ways.
And you're already stocked in a chain of supermarkets, right, across.
Yeah, so we have done the proper registration of the product. We have a regulatory body here called NAFDAC. So we have that, and with that you can now go into supermarkets. So we are in a 2 dozen or so supermarkets, and
2,000, you said.
2 dozen.
2 dozen. Okay, right, yeah. And that's, I think that was Spa. Is that right? Because we have Spa here in the UK.
Those who know Spa, and in Germany we also know Spa. It's only that they only have like 15 stores. It's not like you have a chain of 1,000 stores or something.
Okay. Right.
Distribution is a big issue here. You cannot sign one deal with Walmart and then you are in 20,000 stores. You have to really basically develop your own distribution network. So, which is also fine, because to convince people to reduce meat is really works by interacting one-on-one. So we like to work with individuals, which also help in employment, help them to start talking to their church congregation or in their communities. And then it's much more convincing than putting something on a shelf, because we are really not there like you have an aisle only for vegan products or something, far away from it.
Yeah, sure. And what's your overall vision of the company now that you've come very far, I think, from what you've told us today? So what's your vision of where you want to take the company?
Yeah, so the last year was really about looking for financing, to scale up. We have done the groundwork, we have the product and the production, and now, like, really, how do you get people's attention, And even if it's you don't need adverts everywhere, but you need people that go around. So we are now at that point that we got half of what we were looking for, and so we're ready to start. And then the pandemic broke out, but that's fine. We know that we can work with that, because I think the way people look at health will even be more in our favor. But so the next what's left of the year is we're going to go out now and introduce the products to more supermarkets, to more communities, then also in schools, those places. So that's really the strategy. No restaurants, because that's really capital intense. Not for now. Maybe in a few years when we have really a lot of funds, and then we can. Restaurant is great so people can really see how it's cooked and what you can do. We veganized the Nigerian cuisine. People thought you cannot cook an egusi meal without meat or crayfish, and then they realized, oh, it tastes actually great. You don't need it. And that's what the restaurant was for, to invite people and, hey, sit down and try it. And we need more of that, but now the focus is on the retail product.
Great, fantastic. And so finally, what sort of advice would you give to, I guess, upcoming entrepreneurs who are looking to enter into this space?
Yeah, it's a bit tough, and especially now, the current situation. I think, without talking too much about Corona, but this is going to be a very difficult year for entrepreneurs, especially startups. Probably now the last thing you have on your mind is how to start a business, unless you really have a good idea. We need more products. It's definitely not like in Europe or America. We were the first that offered a commercially scaled meat substitute, and other stuffs are imported, and then it's expensive, or some locally produced things. So definitely we need more products. I believe that this movement is becoming stronger, and my vision really is that it's not like a vegan lifestyle or diet. It's actually should be the way of life. And traditionally, looking in the African way how we cooked, we never ate so much meat. Meat was maybe. I still talk to old people and they say, oh, yes, we ate meat 3-4 times a year when there was a wedding or something. And now following the Western way of life that you need a chicken wing in the morning, I would like to go back to, not like the old days, but we have so many fantastic foods here. You don't really need it. And I think Africa could really play a great role in terms of vegan life globally. We did so many leap jumps, didn't go for landlines but went straight for mobile phones. So now the world is going vegan, or pockets of it. So let's not go down the meat way. Let's go straight to the vegan.
Yeah, well, this is the time and the opportunity to do it, right? Before the consumption starts to increase like the other countries that you mentioned, and so the preventative part, especially to do with health, is vitally important. So yeah, completely with you on that.
Yeah, and then with connections and support of guys like you, because I think this is a global thing. It's we need to learn from each other. And so I really love the way the vegan global network is seeing it's a global thing. It doesn't matter if you reduce meat in London, if it increases by 0.1% in India, then
right.
It doesn't work like that.
Yeah, and then especially when you're the global problem being with factory animal farming linking to climate change, and all those aspects is a global problem, and that we need to start dealing with it now. So yeah,
I was just reading I saw a quote from the German Minister for International Cooperation and Development. He said, we need a Green Deal for Africa. 600 million Africans don't have access to electricity. So if they do, then we need hundreds of power plants. And I was wondering, so if all these Africans start eating meat, or have just like 30% of the meat consumption than the Western world, then you will have thousands of more animal farms here, and so it goes hand in hand, the Green Deal.
Yeah, and if you can imagine then also with the animal farms having the animal waste going into and polluting the rivers and then making an impact to the local environment and damaging other crops as well. It's like a chain reaction.
And it actually affects also countries where you are in. That we have seen it before, like the tobacco industry. Once it's not moving anymore, like in the Western world, they move to those countries, and we have seen things like it could be the same with the meat industry. So they are still producing meat because it's much more efficient to produce meat in the UK than in Nigeria, for example. And then, yeah, they're still producing meat there and then ship it down here. So we are together in that.
Yeah, perfect. Well, thank you very much for your time. It was a pleasure speaking with you, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Anand, and we'll talk soon again, hopefully.
Yeah. Talk soon. Thank you very much. So
okay.
Yeah, if you're listening and want to subscribe to the channel, please do, and please comment below as well. Thank you again, Hakeem.
Okay, bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.